At Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law looked me right in the eyes and said, "You're such a loser, Margaret." Everyone laughed like it was the funniest joke ever. But I wasn't laughing. Then I smiled sweetly and asked her, "How does it feel knowing your secret will be out tomorrow?" The room went dead quiet. What happened next shocked everyone at that table. Let me tell you the whole story. But first, thank you for watching Granny's Twisted Tales. If you like stories about family drama, hit that subscribe button right now. Today's special shout-out goes to Lisa from Texas. We love having you here with us. Now let's jump into this crazy story. My name is Margaret and I'm 64 years old. I've been a mother, a grandmother, and for the last 5 years, I've been trying to be a good mother-in-law. But some people think being nice means being stupid. They think if you don't fight back, you're weak. Well, they're about to learn that quiet people see everything. My son David married this woman named Jessica 3 years ago. From day one, she treated me like I was invisible. Or worse, like I was in her way. She would roll her eyes when I talked. She would make jokes about my cooking, my clothes, even my age. And David, he just sat there like a scared little boy, too afraid to stand up to his wife. I thought maybe she would change. Maybe she was just nervous about having a new family. But it got worse, not better. Every holiday, every birthday, every family dinner became a chance for her to make me feel small. This Christmas was supposed to be special. My whole family was coming over. My other son Marcus with his wife and kids, my sister Betty, even my 85-year-old mother. I spent weeks planning everything. I bought the perfect gifts, decorated the house, and made all of Jessica's favorite foods even though she never said thank you for anything I did. The table looked beautiful with my grandmother's china and the candles flickering just right. Everyone was laughing and having a good time when Jessica decided to ruin it all. We were talking about New Year's plans when Jessica suddenly turned to me with this nasty smile. "Margaret," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "you're such a loser." Still living in the past, still trying to control everyone. It's actually sad. The whole table went quiet for a second. Then everyone started laughing. Even my own son was chuckling like his wife hadn't just called his mother a loser. My heart broke into a million pieces right there at my own dinner table. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. Instead, I looked right at Jessica and smiled the sweetest smile I could manage. "That's interesting, dear," I said in my calmest voice. "Tell me, how does it feel knowing your secret will be out tomorrow?" You could hear a pin drop. Jessica's face went white as snow. Her hand froze halfway to her wine glass. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew exactly what I was talking about. Because Jessica had a secret. Big one. And she thought nobody knew about it. But here's the thing about secrets. They're only secret if nobody's paying attention. And I had been paying very close attention to my daughter-in-law for months. You see, Jessica worked at a fancy marketing company downtown. She always bragged about her important job and how much money she made. She acted like she was so much better than everyone else because she wore expensive clothes and drove a nice car. But what she didn't know was that my neighbor's daughter Sarah worked at the same company. And Sarah had been telling her mom some very interesting stories. About 3 months ago, Sarah mentioned that there was drama at work. Someone had been stealing money from the company's charity fund. Little amounts at first, then bigger and bigger amounts. The company was doing a secret investigation to find out who was taking the money. They had cameras, they were checking computer records, and they were getting close to finding the thief. Sarah didn't know who it was, but she said whoever it was would probably get fired and go to jail. That's when I started putting the pieces together. Jessica had been buying a lot of expensive things lately. New designer purses, fancy jewelry, expensive dinners at restaurants she could never afford on her salary. When David asked her about the money, she always had an excuse. "I got a bonus," or "it was on sale," or "my friend gave me a discount." But I'm not stupid. I've been around long enough to know when something doesn't add up. I started watching more carefully. I noticed she was nervous all the time, checking her phone constantly, jumping whenever it rang. She looked tired and scared, like someone carrying a heavy secret. Then last week, Sarah's mom told me the big news. They had figured out who the thief was. A woman in the marketing department who had been taking money for almost a year. The company was going to fire her right after Christmas and press charges for stealing. They were just waiting for the holidays to be over. When I heard that, everything clicked into place. Jessica's new clothes, her nervousness, her mean attitude. It all made sense now. She was scared and taking it out on everyone else, especially me. So when she called me a loser at my own Christmas dinner, in front of my whole family, I decided it was time to let her know that her secret wasn't so secret anymore. The look on her face was priceless. She knew she was caught. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice was shaking. "Sure you do, sweetie," I said, still smiling. "Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day for you at work, don't you think?" She stood up so fast her chair fell over. "You're crazy," she yelled, but everyone could see she was panicking. David looked confused. "What's going on?" he asked, looking back and forth between his wife and his mother. Jessica grabbed his arm. "We're leaving. Now." But David pulled away from her. "No," he said firmly. "I want to know what's happening." "Mom, what secret are you talking about?" I could have told him right then and there. I could have explained about the stolen money and how his wife was about to get arrested. But I didn't. Because sometimes the best revenge is just letting people destroy themselves. "Ask your wife," I said calmly. "I'm sure she'll tell you the truth." Jessica started crying then. Big ugly tears that ruined her perfect makeup. "It's not what you think," she sobbed. "I was going to pay it back. I just needed the money for Christmas presents, and the wedding was so expensive and we had so many bills." David's face went pale. "Pay what back?" "Jessica, what did you do?" The whole family was staring now. My sister Betty had her mouth hanging open. Even my mother was leaning forward in her wheelchair to hear better. This was better than any TV show they'd ever watched. Jessica collapsed back into her chair, sobbing. "I took some money from work. Just a little bit at first for emergencies. But then I needed more for our wedding and more for the honeymoon and more for Christmas shopping. I was going to pay it all back, I swear." David looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "You stole money. From your job. How much money?" Jessica couldn't even look at him. "About $15,000, she whispered. You could have heard a mouse sneeze. $15,000. That's more money than most people make in 6 months. My son Marcus whistled low under his breath. 15 grand. Jessica, that's not borrowing, that's stealing. You could go to prison for that." Jessica cried harder. I know. That's why I've been so stressed. They're going to fire me and arrest me and I don't know what to do." David stood up and started pacing around the dining room. "This is insane. When were you going to tell me? Were you ever going to tell me?" Jessica shook her head. "I thought I could fix it before anyone found out. I thought I could replace the money and nobody would notice. That's when I spoke up again. But somebody did notice, didn't they? And now they have all the evidence they need to prove what you did." Jessica glared at me through her tears. "How do you even know about this? Have you been spying on me?" I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "Honey, I didn't have to spy on you. You made it pretty obvious. All those expensive things you've been buying, all the lies you've been telling. Plus small towns have big mouths. Word gets around when someone's in trouble." David stopped pacing and looked at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. "All this time you've been mean to my mother because you were guilty about what you did. You called her a loser when you're the one who's been stealing money like a common criminal." Jessica wiped her nose with her napkin. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I was mean to your mom. I'm sorry I took the money. I'm sorry about everything." But David was shaking his head. "Sorry doesn't fix this, Jessica. Sorry doesn't make the money come back. Sorry doesn't keep you out of jail." He turned to me. "Mom, I owe you an apology too. I should have stood up for you." I reached over and patted my son's hand. "You don't owe me anything, sweetheart. But you do need to decide what you're going to do about this situation." David looked at his wife, then at the floor, then back at his wife. I need some air, he said and walked out the back door. Jessica started to follow him, but I called her name. Jessica, sit down. We need to talk. She sat down like a scolded child, tears still running down her face. You want to know what a real loser looks like? I asked her. It's someone who steals money and then blames other people for their problems. It's someone who treats their family like garbage because they can't handle their own guilt. You called me a loser, but look at yourself. You're about to lose your job, your freedom, and probably your marriage too. Jessica sobbed even harder. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. For a moment, just a moment, I felt sorry for her. She was young and stupid and had made terrible choices. But then I remembered all the times she had been cruel to me, all the nasty comments, all the eye rolls and mean jokes. My sympathy disappeared pretty quickly. Here's what you're going to do, I told her firmly. First, you're going to apologize to everyone at this table for ruining Christmas dinner. Then you're going to call a lawyer because you're going to need one. And then you're going to figure out how to pay back every penny you stole, even if it takes you the rest of your life. Jessica nodded through her tears. Will David forgive me? Will he stay with me? I looked at her seriously. Honey, that's not up to me. That's between you and him. But I'll tell you one thing. If you want any chance of saving your marriage, you better start telling the truth about everything. Just then, David came back inside. His face was red from the cold and from crying. Jessica, he said quietly, we need to go home and talk about this. Really talk. Jessica stood up shakily. Can we please stay for dessert? Please. It's Christmas. David shook his head. No. We've already ruined enough of Mom's Christmas. We need to leave now. They gathered their coats and presents in silence. At the door, Jessica turned to me one last time. Margaret, I really am sorry. For everything. You're not a loser. I am. And with that they left. The rest of us sat in stunned silence for a few minutes. Then my sister Betty started laughing. Well, she said, that was better than any soap opera I've ever watched. My mother wheeled her chair closer to the table. Margaret, you handled that beautifully. That girl needed to be put in her place. My other son Marcus shook his head. I can't believe David didn't know. How do you hide stealing $15,000 from your husband? I served the dessert I had made, chocolate cake with strawberries. And we actually had a nice rest of the evening. Without Jessica's negative energy, everyone relaxed and enjoyed themselves. The next morning I woke up early and made coffee. I was sitting at my kitchen table when my phone rang. It was David, and he sounded exhausted. Mom, he said, Jessica got fired this morning. They're pressing charges. She has to go to court next month. I wasn't surprised, but I felt sad for my son. How are you doing, honey? I asked him. I don't know, he admitted. I feel like I don't even know who I married. How could she lie to me for so long? How could she steal money and then be mean to you because she felt guilty? I thought about what to say. Sometimes people do terrible things when they're scared and desperate. That doesn't make it okay, but it explains why she was so angry all the time. David was quiet for a moment. She's staying at her sister's house. She says she wants to work things out, but I don't know if I can trust her anymore. I understood how he felt. Trust is like a mirror. Once it's broken, it never looks the same again, even if you glue it back together. You don't have to make any big decisions right now, I told him. Take your time. Figure out what you want. That afternoon I got an unexpected visitor. Jessica showed up at my door looking terrible. Her hair was messy, her eyes were red and puffy, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I almost said no, but something in her voice made me step aside and let her in. She sat down on my couch and just started talking. I know you hate me, she said. I know you think I'm awful. And you're right. I'm awful. I've been horrible to you for no reason except that I was scared and guilty. I sat down across from her and waited for her to continue. The truth is, she said, I've always been jealous of you. You're such a good mother, and David loves you so much. I was afraid he would love you more than me. So I tried to make him choose between us by being mean to you. I thought if I could make you look bad, he would pick me. This was more honesty than I had ever gotten from Jessica. Why did you start stealing the money? I asked her. She wiped her eyes with a tissue. At first, it was just $20 here and there for lunch when I forgot my wallet. But then I realized how easy it was. The charity fund wasn't watched very carefully. I told myself I would pay it back, but then I needed money for our wedding dress, and then for the honeymoon, and then for Christmas presents. Before I knew it, I had taken thousands of dollars and I couldn't figure out how to put it back without getting caught. She looked at me with desperate eyes. I know this sounds crazy, but I thought if I could just make enough money somehow, I could replace it all and nobody would ever know. But I kept spending more instead of saving. I shook my head. Jessica, that money was supposed to help children who don't have enough food or warm clothes. You stole from children. She started crying again. I know how terrible that is. I hate myself for it. Every time I bought something with that money, I felt sick. But I couldn't stop. It was like an addiction. I had to ask the question that was bothering me most. Why were you so mean to me? What did I ever do to you? Jessica took a shaky breath. Nothing. You never did anything wrong. That's what made it worse. You were always nice to me, always trying to include me, always making my favorite foods. I felt so guilty every time you were kind to me because I knew I was lying to your son and stealing money. So I decided to hate you instead of hating myself. It was easier to blame you for my problems than to admit I was the problem. I stared at her for a long moment. This young woman had been carrying around so much guilt and fear that it had poisoned everything good in her life. What are you going to do now? I asked her. She shrugged hopelessly. I don't know. Get a lawyer, I guess. Try to find a way to pay the money back. Probably get divorced. David won't even look at me. He's so disappointed and angry. I don't blame him. I surprised myself by feeling sorry for her. Yes, she had been cruel to me. Yes, she had stolen money from charity. But she was also a scared young woman who had made terrible choices and now had to live with the consequences. Jessica, I said carefully, if you really want to fix this, you have to start by being completely honest about everything. No more lies, no more excuses. David needs to know he can trust you, and that's going to take time. She nodded eagerly. I'll do anything. I'll get a job even if it's minimum wage. I'll pay back every penny, even if it takes years. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked at this broken young woman and made a decision that surprised even me. I'm going to help you, I said. Her eyes went wide. What? Why? After everything I did to you. I took a deep breath. Because David loves you. And because everyone deserves a second chance if they're willing to work for it. Jessica started crying again, but this time they were tears of relief, not despair. First, I told her, you're going to write down every single thing you bought with that stolen money. Every dress, every dinner, every gift. Then you're going to return everything you can and sell everything you can't return. That money goes toward paying back what you stole. She nodded quickly. Okay, yes, I can do that. Second, you're going to get counseling to figure out why you thought stealing was okay. And third, you're going to work whatever job you can find to start earning money to pay back the rest. Jessica wiped her eyes. What about David? What if he won't forgive me? Decide. Honey, I can't make David forgive you. That's something you have to earn. But I can tell you that my son has a good heart. If you show him that you're really sorry and you're willing to work hard to fix your mistakes, he might give you another chance. Jessica hugged me then, which surprised us both. Thank you, she whispered. I don't deserve your help, but thank you. Over the next few weeks, Jessica kept her promises. She returned thousands of dollars worth of clothes and jewelry. She sold her expensive purse and shoes online. She found a job at a restaurant waiting tables. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest work, and she threw herself into it. She also started seeing a counselor to talk about why she had made such bad choices. Slowly, very slowly, David started to soften toward her. He moved back home after she promised complete honesty about everything. She showed him her paycheck stubs, her bank statements, even her text messages. She was trying to rebuild the trust she had broken. The court case was harder. Jessica had to plead guilty to stealing the money. She was sentenced to community service and had to pay back every penny with interest. It would take her years, but she was determined to do it. The hardest part was facing the people she had hurt. The charity she stole from helped homeless families. Jessica had to meet with some of those families and explain what she had done. She had to look at children who didn't have warm winter coats because the money that was supposed to buy those coats had gone to buy her designer dresses instead. Those meetings broke her heart, but they also helped her understand the real cost of her actions. She started volunteering at the homeless shelter on weekends. She said it helped her remember why the work was important. Months passed, and Jessica slowly became a different person. The angry, mean woman who had called me a loser was gone. In her place was someone who was humble, hardworking, and grateful for every chance she got to make things right. She still had bad days when the guilt was overwhelming, but she didn't take it out on other people anymore. She took responsibility for her mistakes and worked every day to fix them. David started to trust her again, little by little. It wasn't easy, and there were setbacks. Sometimes he would get angry all over again when he thought about how she had lied to him. Sometimes she would get frustrated with how long it was taking to pay back the money. But they kept working at it day by day. The real test came the next Christmas. I wasn't sure if I should invite them to dinner again. What if it brought back bad memories? What if it was awkward? But David asked if they could come, and Jessica said she wanted to make amends for ruining the previous year. So I said yes, but I was nervous about it. When they arrived, Jessica looked completely different. She was wearing a simple dress from a thrift store instead of expensive designer clothes. She brought a homemade pie instead of demanding that I cook her favorite foods. And she spent the whole evening helping in the kitchen, cleaning dishes, and asking my other family members about their lives instead of talking about herself. When we sat down to eat, Jessica stood up and asked if she could say something. The room went quiet, and I could see she was nervous. "Last year," she said, "I ruined Christmas by being awful to Margaret and lying to all of you. I called her a loser when I was the one acting like a loser. I stole money from charity, lied to my husband, and treated David's mother terribly because I was too much of a coward to face my own problems." Her voice shook, but she kept going. "I can't take back what I did, but I can promise you that I'm working every day to be better. I'm paying back the money I stole, even though it will take years. I'm volunteering to help the people I hurt. And I'm trying to be the kind of person who deserves to be part of this family." She turned to me specifically. "Margaret, I owe you the biggest apology of all. You welcomed me into your family, and I repaid your kindness with cruelty. You're not a loser. You're one of the strongest, most generous people I've ever met. Thank you for giving me a second chance when I didn't deserve it." There wasn't a dry eye at the table. Even my tough sister Betty was wiping her eyes with her napkin. I stood up and hugged Jessica, really hugged her, for the first time since I'd known her. "We're family," I told her. "And family forgives each other when they're truly sorry." The rest of the dinner was wonderful. Jessica helped serve the food and cleared the plates. She played games with my grandchildren and listened to my mother's stories about the old days. She was present in a way she had never been before. Not checking her phone, not making snide comments, not trying to be the center of attention. She was just genuinely happy to be included. When they were leaving, Jessica hugged me again. "Thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like," she said. "I thought being tough meant being mean, but you showed me that being tough means being kind even when people don't deserve it." After they left, I sat in my kitchen thinking about everything that had happened. A year ago, Jessica had called me a loser and I had threatened to expose her secret. Now, she was working 3 jobs to pay back the money she stole and volunteering at the homeless shelter every weekend. David had forgiven her, slowly and carefully, and they were rebuilding their marriage on a foundation of honesty instead of lies. And me. I had learned that sometimes the best way to handle someone who hurts you is not to hurt them back, but to show them what it looks like to be better. Jessica had called me a loser, but in the end we both won. She won a chance to become a better person, and I won a daughter-in-law who finally understood what family really means. The funny thing is, I never actually planned to expose Jessica's secret that night. When I said her secret would be out the next day, I was just guessing that something was wrong based on how nervous she'd been acting. I had no idea she was actually stealing money from work. But sometimes a lucky guess can change everything. If Jessica hadn't felt so guilty, she might not have confessed. If she hadn't confessed, she might have kept stealing until she got caught anyway. In a weird way, my threat probably saved her from even worse consequences. Now, 2 years later, Jessica has paid back almost half of the money she stole. She got promoted to assistant manager at the restaurant where she works, and she's taking night classes to get a degree in social work. She wants to help other people who are struggling with making bad choices. David is proud of her now, proud of how hard she's worked to make things right. They're talking about starting a family soon, which means I might become a grandmother again. The thought makes me smile. Jessica and I have become close friends over the past 2 years. She calls me when she's having a bad day, and I give her advice about everything from cooking to marriage to dealing with difficult people. Sometimes she still cries about the terrible things she did, but I remind her that what matters is not the mistakes we make, but how we handle them afterward. She handled hers with courage, honesty, and hard work. That Christmas dinner when she called me a loser was the worst night of my life at the time. But looking back, it was also the beginning of something beautiful. It was the moment when our family stopped pretending everything was fine and started dealing with the truth. It was painful, but it was necessary. Sometimes you have to break something completely before you can build it back the right way. I've learned a lot about forgiveness over the past 2 years. I used to think forgiveness meant pretending someone hadn't hurt you. But real forgiveness is different. It's choosing to give someone a chance to earn back your trust, even when they don't deserve it. It's helping them become better instead of punishing them for being worse. It's hard, but it's worth it. If you're dealing with someone in your family who treats you badly, remember this story. Sometimes people are mean because they're carrying secrets that make them hate themselves. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it might explain it. And if you're the one who's been making bad choices and hurting people, remember that it's never too late to change. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but if you're willing to do the work, most people will give you a second chance. Just don't waste it. As for me, I'm 66 now, and I've never been happier. My family dinners are peaceful and full of laughter. My daughter-in-law brings me flowers every Sunday and asks for my recipes. My son David looks at his wife with love and pride instead of disappointment and confusion. My grandchildren have 2 parents who are honest with each other and work hard to build a good life. And I have the satisfaction of knowing that when someone called me a loser, I responded not with anger or revenge, but with wisdom and grace. Sometimes the best way to win is to help the other person win too. That's what real winners do. So what's the moral of this story? It's that secrets have a way of coming out, usually at the worst possible time. It's that being mean to people often comes from being disappointed in yourself. It's that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean giving people a chance to do better. And most importantly, it's that calling someone a loser says more about you than it does about them. True strength isn't about putting people down. It's about lifting them up, even when they don't deserve it. Especially when they don't deserve it. I hope Jessica's story inspires someone who's made bad choices to start making better ones. I hope it reminds someone who's been hurt that healing is possible if both people are willing to work for it. And I hope it shows everyone that family isn't about being perfect. It's about loving each other through the imperfect times and coming out stronger on the other side. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Granny's Twisted Tales for more stories about real families dealing with real problems. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that people can change. And leave a comment telling me about a time when someone surprised you by becoming better than you expected. I love reading your stories, and they inspire the content I create. Remember, we all make mistakes, but we don't all learn from them. The difference between a loser and a winner isn't whether you fall down. It's whether you get back up and keep trying to do better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we dive into another family drama that will shock you. Until then, Remember that love always wins, but sometimes it takes a while to get there. Before I go, I want to add one more thing. A lot of people have asked me if I really think Jessica deserved a second chance after everything she did. The answer is complicated. Did she deserve it based on her actions? Probably not. But I didn't give her a second chance because she deserved it. I gave it to her because David deserved to have his marriage work if it could be saved. Because those homeless children deserved to have someone working hard to pay back what was stolen from them. And because I deserved to live without anger and resentment eating away at my heart. Sometimes we help people not because they've earned it, but because helping them helps everyone around them too. Jessica getting her life together meant David could be happy again. It meant my grandchildren would have a mother who was present and honest. It meant I could enjoy family dinners without walking on eggshells. So really, helping Jessica was the most selfish thing I could do because it gave me back the peaceful family life I wanted. That's the funny thing about forgiveness. We think we're doing it for other people, but we're really doing it for ourselves. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Doesn't work that way. The only person who suffers when you hold on to anger is you. So I let it go, not because Jessica deserved my forgiveness, but because I deserved my peace. And that made all the difference. I've gotten hundreds of messages from people who watched this video and decided to give someone in their family a second chance. I've heard from people who were inspired to confess their own mistakes and start making amends. I've heard from families who were able to heal old wounds because this story gave them hope. That's why I share these stories. Not for drama or entertainment, but because real stories about real people can inspire real change in other people's lives. If my Christmas dinner disaster could help even one family come back together, then it was worth all the pain and embarrassment. We're all just trying to figure out how to love each other better, and sometimes we need to see examples of what that looks like. I hope my story with Jessica gives you courage to try again with someone who's hurt you, or to ask for forgiveness from someone you've hurt. Life's too short to carry grudges, and family is too precious to throw away over pride. But remember, forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat. It means setting boundaries while still showing love. It means giving people chances to do better, but not unlimited chances to keep hurting you. Jessica earned her second chance by doing the hard work of change. She didn't just say sorry. She showed sorry through her actions every single day. That's the difference between real change and empty promises. If someone in your life has hurt you and wants forgiveness, watch what they do, not just what they say. Actions speak louder than words, and consistency speaks louder than apologies. Change is possible, but it has to be proven over time, not just promised in a moment of crisis. Jessica proved hers, and that's why our story has a happy ending. Some people have criticized me for helping Jessica, saying I was too soft or that I should have let her face the consequences alone. But here's what they don't understand. She did face the consequences. She lost her job, went to court, had to pay back every penny with interest, and nearly lost her marriage. I didn't save her from consequences. I just chose to help her learn from them instead of drowning in them. There's a difference between enabling someone and empowering them to do better. Enabling means protecting people from the results of their actions. Empowering means helping them handle those results in a way that leads to growth. I didn't lie for Jessica or make excuses for her or try to get her out of trouble. I helped her figure out how to take responsibility and make real changes. That's what love looks like sometimes. Not rescuing people from their problems, but walking beside them as they solve those problems themselves. If you're dealing with a family member who's made serious mistakes, ask yourself this question. Are they asking you to help them avoid consequences or help them handle consequences? The answer will tell you whether they're ready to really change. Jessica asked for help handling her consequences, not avoiding them. She wanted to know how to pay back the money, how to rebuild trust, how to become someone worthy of forgiveness. She didn't ask me to lie for her or bail her out or make her problems go away. She asked me to help her face them with courage and dignity. That's when I knew she was serious about changing. Now, 3 years later, Jessica has paid back the full amount she stole, plus interest. She graduated from her social work program with honors. She volunteers at 3 different charities. She and David have a beautiful baby daughter who calls me Grandma Maggie and lights up my whole world. The angry, bitter woman who called me a loser at Christmas dinner is gone forever, replaced by someone who's learned that real strength comes from admitting your weaknesses and working to overcome them. Our family is stronger now than it ever was before because we've learned to deal with problems honestly instead of pretending they don't exist. We've learned that forgiveness is possible, but it has to be earned. We've learned that love sometimes means letting people fail so they can learn to succeed. Most importantly, we've learned that calling someone a loser is usually just a way of avoiding looking at your own failures. The people who are quickest to put others down are often the ones who are most disappointed in themselves. When Jessica called me a loser, she wasn't really talking about me. She was talking about how she felt about herself. Understanding that doesn't excuse her behavior, but it does explain it. And understanding why people hurt us is the first step toward healing from that hurt. So if someone calls you names or treats you badly, remember that it's usually about them, not you. Don't let their problems become your problems. Don't let their pain become your pain. Rise above it, show them what real strength looks like, and give them a chance to rise too. But don't sacrifice yourself in the process. You can be kind without being weak, forgiving without being foolish, and helpful without being a doormat. It's all about balance, and that balance is different for every situation. Trust your instincts, set your boundaries, and remember that you teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to accept. I accepted Jessica's apology because she backed it up with action. If she had just said sorry and then continued the same behavior, I would have cut her out of my life completely. But she didn't just apologize, she transformed. And that transformation was worth supporting. As we wrap up this story, I want to thank everyone who has shared their own family drama stories with me. Reading your comments and messages reminds me that we're all struggling with similar issues. Difficult relatives, broken trust, the challenge of forgiveness, the hope for redemption. You're not alone in whatever family drama you're facing. There's always hope for healing if people are willing to do the work. Sometimes that work takes years, like it did for Jessica and our family. Sometimes it happens faster. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and you have to accept that and move on. But the important thing is to never give up on the possibility that people can change, while also protecting yourself from people who choose not to change. It's a delicate balance, but it's one worth learning. Before I sign off, let me give you one final piece of advice from someone who's been married for 40 years and raised 3 children and dealt with more family drama than anyone should have to. Love is not a feeling, it's a choice. You choose to love someone even when they're not lovable. You choose to forgive someone even when they don't deserve it. You choose to hope for someone even when they've disappointed you. But you also choose to protect yourself when someone consistently chooses to hurt you. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. It doesn't mean sacrificing your peace for someone else's drama. Real love is tough love. It helps people become better, not worse. It holds people accountable while still offering them grace. It says, I love you enough to tell you the truth, even when the truth is hard to hear. That's the kind of love I showed Jessica, and that's the kind of love she learned to show back. If you're in a situation where someone has called you names, stolen from you, lied to you, or hurt you in any other way, remember this story. Remember that people can change, but only if they want to. Remember that forgiveness is possible, but it has to be earned. Remember that family is precious, but so is your self-respect. Find the balance that works for your situation, and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. You deserve to be treated with respect, especially by the people who claim to love you. Don't settle for less, but don't give up hope that things can get better. Sometimes the most beautiful relationships come from the ashes of the most broken ones. Jessica and I are proof of that. From enemies to friends, from conflict to cooperation, from a Christmas dinner disaster to a family success story. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, and it wasn't guaranteed. But it was possible and it was worth it. I hope your story has a happy ending too. Thanks for watching Granny's Twisted Tales, and remember, every family has drama, but not every family learns from it. Be the one who chooses to learn, to grow, and to love better. Until next time, this is Margaret signing off. Keep your chin up, your heart open, and your boundaries strong. You've got this. And hey, if you enjoyed this story, You'll love our other videos about family secrets, holiday disasters, and the complicated relationships that make life interesting. Check out the playlist below. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new tale from Granny's Twisted Tales. One last thing. I've gotten so many requests for advice about specific family situations that I'm thinking about starting a series where I respond to your questions and stories. If you'd like me to share advice about your family drama, send me an email through the link in the description. I can't respond to everyone, but I'll try to address the most common issues in future videos. Remember, you're not alone in whatever you're going through. We're all just trying to figure out how to love each other better, one day at a time. Thanks for being part of the Granny's Twisted Tales family. Before I really say goodbye, let me share one more thought. When Jessica first called me a loser at that Christmas dinner, I felt like the smallest person in the world. Her words cut deep because they hit on fears I'd been carrying, that I was too old, too outdated, too irrelevant to matter to my own family. But looking back now, I realize that moment was actually my greatest victory. Not because I got revenge on Jessica, but because I refused to let her words define me. I knew who I was, and more importantly, I knew who I wanted to be. A woman of grace, strength, and wisdom. A woman who could see past someone's worst moment to their potential for growth. A woman who understood that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who need our help the most. That Christmas dinner taught me that being called a loser doesn't make you one, and calling someone else a loser doesn't make you a winner. What makes you a winner is how you respond when life gets difficult. Do you lash out or do you lift up? Do you tear down or do you build up? Do you hold grudges or do you offer hope? Jessica chose to lash out, tear down, and hold grudges when her life got difficult. But she learned to make different choices, and that's what changed everything. I'm proud of the woman she's become, but I'm also proud of the woman I chose to be during her darkest time. We both won in the end, but we won by learning to be better people, not by defeating each other. That's the kind of victory that lasts, the kind that makes families stronger instead of tearing them apart. So if someone calls you a loser, remember my story. Remember that their words say more about them than about you. Remember that you get to choose how to respond. You can respond with anger, with revenge, with bitterness. And you might feel satisfied for a moment. But that satisfaction won't last, and it won't heal anything. Or you can respond with wisdom, with grace, with the kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. That's the response that changes lives, that heals families, that turns Christmas dinner disasters into beautiful redemption stories. Choose wisely because your choice doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone around you too. The ripple effects of how we treat each other spread far beyond what we can see. Jessica's cruelty affected not just me, but David, the grandchildren, the whole extended family. My decision to help her instead of destroy her affected all of them too, but in a positive way. Now my grandchildren have a stable home with parents who love and respect each other. David has a wife he can trust and be proud of. Jessica has learned skills that help her serve others instead of hurting them. Our whole family tree is stronger because one person chose grace over grudges. That person was me, but it could have been any of us. It could be you in your situation. You have more power than you realize to change the trajectory of your family's story. One act of forgiveness, one offer of help, one moment of choosing love over anger can change everything. But it has to be real forgiveness, not fake peace. It has to be wise help, not enabling. It has to be tough love, not soft boundaries. The difference is in your intention. Are you trying to avoid conflict, or are you trying to create real change? I wasn't trying to avoid conflict with Jessica. I was trying to transform it into something constructive. I wasn't trying to keep peace at any cost. I was trying to build real peace that would last. There's a big difference, and understanding that difference is what made all the difference in our story. As I finish telling you this story, it's Christmas Eve again. Jessica and David are in my kitchen right now, helping me prepare tomorrow's dinner. Jessica is making her famous apple pie, the recipe I taught her last year. David is carving the turkey and telling stories about his daughter's first Christmas. The house is full of laughter and love and the kind of peace that comes not from avoiding problems, but from working through them together. In a few hours, my whole family will gather around my table again. We'll hold hands and say grace, thanking God for second chances and new beginnings. We'll eat good food and share funny stories and take pictures that will become treasured memories. And somewhere during the evening, I'll catch Jessica's eye across the table and we'll smile at each other, remembering how far we've come from that terrible Christmas dinner 3 years ago. She won't call me a loser, and I won't threaten to expose her secrets, because we don't have secrets anymore. We have honesty, trust, and love. We have a relationship built on truth instead of pretense, on forgiveness instead of resentment, on hope instead of fear. It's not perfect, no relationship is, but it's real and it's good and it's worth every difficult moment it took to get here. So that's my Christmas gift to you this year. The reminder that no situation is hopeless, no person is beyond redemption, and no family is too broken to heal. It takes work, it takes time, and it takes people who are willing to choose love over pride. But it's possible, and it's beautiful, and it's worth fighting for. Whatever family drama you're facing this Christmas season, remember Jessica and me. Remember that the worst Christmas dinner of my life became the beginning of the best relationship I never expected to have. Your disaster might be the start of your miracle too. You just have to be brave enough to believe it's possible and wise enough to know what real change looks like. Merry Christmas from all of us at Granny's Twisted Tales. May your holidays be filled with grace, forgiveness, and the kind of love that transforms hearts. Thanks for letting me share my story with you, and remember, every family has twisted tales, but the best ones have happy endings. See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about real families finding their way back to love. Until then, keep choosing grace over grudges, hope over hurt, and love over everything else. It's always the right choice, even when it's the hard choice. This is Margaret, signing off from Granny's Twisted Tales, where every story ends with a lesson and every lesson ends with love. Take care of yourselves and each other, because that's what family really means. Goodbye for now, and remember, you're never too old to learn something new about love, never too hurt to heal, and never too lost to find your way home. Family is where your story begins, but forgiveness is where it gets beautiful. See you in the next Twisted Tale, where we'll dive into another family secret that shocked everyone. Until then, choose kindness, choose courage, and choose to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Merry Christmas, everyone.